We're back again on Talk Television, that is, Seven Rivers Talk. I'm Bob Burrell, and we're happy to have you with us again today. And my guest, as you know, is Dan Kapanke. And we've covered a lot of water here, Dan, but I think you want to go back a little bit and elaborate, do you not, on jobs and on...
Correct. Yeah, let me just talk. I've been out about 4 or 5 months now, out in the 3rd District and listening to people, talking to people, and from Hudson all the way down to the Illinois border. And jobs are number one. And then I mentioned earlier about how many businesses I've visited and listened to their concerns and talk to them about, where they think they're going to be in a year, or 6 months, or 5 years. And I'll give you 2 examples. There's a business north of here, 35 employees, run by a young married couple, maybe 40 years old. It's a great business. They actually moved from South Dakota to come to Wisconsin because his job at that time shifted him over here, and then he wanted to go in business for himself. He wanted to be an entrepreneur. But 35 employees, and as I was sitting in his office talking to him, he said, Dan, there's 3 or 4 employees that I have with me right now that are part-time, and I'd put them on full-time today if I knew exactly what Madison was going to do and Washington was going to do. So, I alluded to that earlier. And then there's another business that's close by here to La Crosse, 120 employees. They have a Cadillac, if you will, healthcare plan. And in talking to the 2 owners, again, 45 or 50 years old, they want to do what's best for their employees. And they're very concerned about this healthcare plan and what might happen as far as being taxed on their healthcare plan because it's a Cadillac plan. So guess what? He says, I'm going to have to go to my employees and I'm going to have to say, we have 2 options here. Number 1, you have to start contributing to your healthcare plan more, or number 2, we have to lay off some people. So that company is on a hold pattern, and I hear that time and time again. Again, it's the government. The government is holding us back. And I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm not going to go out and try and borrow money and expand my operation until things settle down a little bit. And I alluded to the massive spending in Washington that's really causing all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just personify the government as a person. And if you as a person were to go and spend like that, you know exactly where you would be. And the banks would turn their back on you.
They'd come to us and they'd call in our loan. They'd say, you're done. And just think about the fact that we're $3 trillion, possibly up to $3 trillion right now that we owe China. So China's become our banker. People are scratching their heads and they're saying, how did this happen? What if China calls in their chips and say, hey, United States, we want our money? What's going to happen to our financial institution if that happens? And it won't be pretty.
Dan has got I think, a really fine background to be running for Congress and to represent his constituency in Congress, simply from the history of going back of your work and your raising up era, if you would say, one-room grade school. But how about your business experience again that gives you a real insight into what people really need?
Well, I mentioned that I had been a manager for Quick Trip stores, and what a great organization that is, and headquartered right here in La Crosse. But also during college, I learned the carpentry trade. And so when I got out, I built a couple of duplexes and some houses and did some remodeling. And because I learned that trade, I was able to mortgage everything I had and bring the La Crosse loggers to La Crosse. So when I'm out talking to college students, I say, hey, you got a job in college? Learn everything you can about that, whatever it's working at McDonald's or working at Quick Trip, whatever that may be. Learn that trade as well as you can, because you never know when you're going to have to draw on it down the road a few years. So I've got that, and then 25 years in agribusiness. And agribusiness, agriculture is our #1 industry here in Wisconsin. Over 400-some thousand jobs directly or indirectly related to agriculture. It's #1. And if you look at, the second big issue that's on the horizon, and it's been on the back burner a little bit, but it's coming up, and that's cap and trade. The president wants to move cap and trade as soon as he's got this health care bill done. And that's going to be devastating not only to agriculture in Wisconsin, but to businesses and to households. And why are we, the United States of America, we're the leader. We're doing this. No other country wants to join us in this effort, and they shouldn't, because it's not good.
Well, the problem is that he and many of his political constituents are all going the wrong way. They're over here when they should be right here, with jobs, okay, with jobs and with fair and honest representation and less spending and so forth. Dan, the thing that will be hard to do if you become elected is to try and change that. So how do you feel about when you go into something like this in terms of, you got to be pretty positive?
You got to be positive. We need a major course correction in Washington, and the people out here are demanding it. I can't do it by myself, and no legislator can. But if we are empowered by the people, then we can do it. And if there's enough of us, we will get the job done. That's why we're going to Washington. That's why from the East Coast to the West Coast, there are good candidates out here running for office for the first time.
Yeah.
There are so many challengers to the incumbents, and the people are saying, you've been in there long enough. I mean, our congressman, 14 years. We've got congressmen and women that have been there 30 years and 40 years. It's enough.
Yeah.
People want some new people with fresh ideas that are going to be responsible and responsive to the people.
Absolutely. You'll have one good man to work with when you get there, though, and that's Paul Ryan.
Oh, what a star he is.
Right.
And you know what's so good about Paul Ryan is, number one, of course, he's young. He's very, very intelligent. He knows the issues. And he's solid. I mean, I didn't get to see the encounter between Congressman Ryan and the president, on February 25th when they had this health summit. But I heard he was spectacular. He just had his points out there. He knew his points, and he was right on. And so we need more Paul Ryans in Washington, that's for sure.
Dan, I know you've got many, many different activities coming up, and we'll have on the bottom of our screen here your email or address or your website address, so people can tap into you. Do you have any large meetings coming up in the next?
Yeah, actually we do.
Other than every day and every night.
Every day and every day. My opponent is doing now town hall meetings.
Yeah.
And where he's on the phone and not looking people in the eye. Contrast that strategy to mine, and that is I'm doing town hall meetings face to face in 35 to 40 communities throughout the 3rd, and so that's one of the major activities that I'm engaging in right now. The other thing is, of course, we do a fundraising. I'm behind, but this year is a different year, and my opponent has a lot of money. But because the people out here, the grassroots, the involvement of the grassroots out here, they know the issues. So they're not just going to sit home, watch a Packer game, see a political ad and say, yep, I'm voting for that guy or that gal. That's not going to happen this year because the people are engaged, and it's the best thing. And that's why my cup is half full, because of the people. The people are going to make this course correction that this country so needs in such a bad way.
There you go, Dan. And again, if you wish to help Dan out or support his effort, just check out that website on the screen there, and you can be in contact with him there. And I think that we've probably reached the rest of our program here, Dan, but I'm looking forward to having you come back, and one of these days before too long, we'll have a debate. And I think that where you are, I think you're trying to get community growth rather than just do a community activity. Is that correct?
Exactly. I mean, from Hudson to the Illinois border, we want grassroots involvement. We have, I think, 700 or 800 volunteers right now. We've got about 1,500 people involved in this campaign, and it's growing every day. And it's not because of Kapanke, such a great guy or anything. It's because of the message and because of the concern for what's going on in Washington.
Well, look what happened in Massachusetts.
Well, there you go. Massachusetts, New Jersey, Virginia.
Yeah.
The track record is there, but who thought that Senator Ted Kennedy's seat would be won by a Republican? Who would have dreamed that a year ago?
Yeah.
And so we're in such a huge change in this country right now. A year ago, I called it a mini revolution. It's getting close to a major revolution,
Absolutely.
And by November 2nd, I think that there's going to be a real knockout punch thrown.
And I'll tell you what, whatever happens this week, whether that bill goes down or stays up, it's going to continue. If the bill goes, then watch out.
Exactly. I mean, people, again, up to 75% of the people said, don't do this, and yet they're bent on making sure they do it.
Dan, thank you so much for being my guest.
Good to be here. Thank you, Bob.
And we look forward to seeing you again, and look forward to seeing other candidates and incumbents, we hope, on this screen. Next week, of course, we'll also